Hey everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Space Problems. I'm Ben.
And I'm Derek.
And today is episode 8, and we're going to do something special because obviously we've got episode 8 of Star Wars, The Last Jedi. And on top of that, we also have 8 subscribers on YouTube. Woo. And speaking of subscribers, we're also joined by 2 guests today. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. We've got Ian and Chris.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
All right, and today we're going to be discussing, as I said, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, but specifically our predictions and how we feel that the movie is going to go. I guess we're just going to start off with the overall general story of where it's going to go. Chris, where do you think they're going to go from here after Episode 7's?
Man, there's a lot of ways that they can go. My biggest hope is that they don't create the same problem that they did with Episode 7, where the fans were feeling like it was a rehash of Episode 4. So I think a big part of it is get away from copying Empire, but using the highlights of Empire to progress the story. So whether it's in Empire in Episode 5, we had Luke's training with Yoda becoming a Jedi. We've seen in the trailers Rey training under the somewhat watchful, although I see it as cautiously watched eyes of Luke.
Yeah, he doesn't really seem to be in particularly thrilled to be training her necessarily. He seems kind of cynical towards everything.
Right. I think, yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that part of it is that he's scared. We know that he trained Ben, or as people know him, Kylo Ren. And he's seen what happens when somebody embraces the dark side too much and you can lose your student. That's what he feared of happening with training another Jedi or another Jedi to be.
Right. Yeah. And some of the trailers also seem to indicate that, and I'd say seem that they're going to indicate. I'm pretty sure that. Rey seems like she's going to be struggling herself.
Yeah. Well, we saw that in Episode 7 is Rey's conflict within herself, whether to embrace the Force and become a Jedi. It's, to use her words from the last trailer we saw, she's looking for her place. She doesn't know her parents. She's abandoned at a very early age, and she's an orphan. She's looking for her place. Now, whether it's going to be the connection with the Force and training with Luke that gives her a purpose, or is there somebody else out there that can do that better than Luke? Right. I think that as far as that aspect of the storyline goes, that's going to be a direction that I think is going to be a highlight of the movie, is where is she going and what is her purpose to be.
Right. Let's just hope she just doesn't lose a hand in this one.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a foot.
Yeah, let's change it up a little bit.
We'll change it up. Come on.
I don't know. Derek, what do you think?
Well, I've only seen a little bit. I've only watched basically the 2 trailers. I haven't even looked at a lot of the toys, just in case. Trying not to get spoiled. So I probably know the least amount going into this, but the vibe I got was, they're kind of echoing Empire, but I don't think, I agree with Chris. I think they're going to try to avoid paralleling it too closely. They talk a lot about in Episode 7 the fact that Luke was going to be found at like an ancient Jedi temple, and I think a big theme of the movie is essentially going to be getting back to the roots of what Jedi and Sith are, because Vader, having essentially wiped the slate clean and brought balance to the Force so that Luke was only the last Force user left, it kind of becomes now like Luke just trying to, like when he tried to train his new students, business as usual, he failed and created Kylo Ren. So him going back to the Jedi Temple and trying to find the roots of like the original Jedi, I think that's kind of what they're going to factor in with Rey. I agree. I think Luke's very hesitant, probably doesn't want to train her at all, but I think he's looking to kind of bring the Jedi Order back to, I don't know, basically its roots. And he's going to try to use Rey to do that. At the same time, I think they're going to parallel that with Kylo Ren, like I'm guessing they're probably going to have those two storylines in parallel. Whereas Rey's training, Kylo is training as well, and he's going to be getting, stronger with the dark side, and Snoke's going to be there egging him on. And I don't know how exactly they're going to tie that together. I don't really know where they're going with it, to be perfectly honest. I have a feeling that it's going to end badly for our heroes. I kind of think they're going to still do an Empire-esque cliffhanger ending with everybody in peril. We'll see. But,
right, like they're still going to keep like the same, not really the same, but the same plot beats or plot structure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to like rip off Empire, but I mean, like the major beats, I think, are all going to be there still. I mean, heck, there's walkers in the one trailer.
So what do you think he's going to mean, or he means in the trailer when he says it's time for the Jedi to end? Is it?
I personally think that I think there's a lot of misdirection happening, especially in the last trailer. I think even the one line in the last trailer where it says this isn't going to go how you think it is, I think that's a very clear indication that the people at Disney marketing know what they're doing. And I think that they're intentionally trying to misdirect the audience as far as what's going to happen in the movie. So my personal guess is that line in context is Luke saying, I'm not going to train you. I don't care. I'd rather have the Jedi end than have another Kylo Ren happen.
So he's just being cautious.
That'd be my guess.
Is that careful, like I guess similar, echoing Yoda in a way, hesitant to train. I hope he doesn't say she's too old.
Yeah, but Yoda's mildly hesitant to train. I mean, I think Luke's going to be a lot more like stubborn about it.
I can totally see that. I mean, he moved to a hermit island. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to be stubborn about it. Ian, what would you have to add to it?
Not too much other than that. I do think they'll hit basic beats throughout the thing. There's obviously going to be some sort of planetary battle with the walkers, like there was. I mean, even the prequels kind of still echoed themes from the original trilogy. I just think that's kind of the thing that they do in loops and cycles in this. But it'll be interesting to see. I think there also should be some big revelations that happen in it, kind of like in Empire, where do we find out whose Rey's parents are, or where Emperor Snoke came from? I think there's going to need to be some more that ties things back to the original trilogy, and some of the things that were left up out in the open in Force Awakens, I think will need to be addressed at this point. But I do agree that there is probably a lot of misdirection going on in that trailer. With some of the things that Luke says, also could be the kind of cave test from Empire, where she's going in there and seeing her fears. I mean, look, with her trying to find her place and things like that, if she's going into this thing, that might be one of her fears, that Luke rejects her for training and stuff like that, and then she's still kind of lost.
Are they going to start? I don't know if any of you know this. Are they going to start right away with where they like immediately left off in Episode 7?
I would think so.
Yeah, that's one possible way. I've heard rumors of another possible opening, but I think where we left off in Episode 7 is probably going to be in the first act, if not in the first half of the act.
Yeah, I agree. I doubt they're going to pick up immediately where they left off, simply because it's not exciting enough. They're going to want to do some kind of big action set piece at the beginning and then cut back, I'm sure.
I think they'll actually kind of start off in the middle of her training, whether it's like fighting or some sort of test with lifting rocks or something like that. If you remember from that first teaser trailer, that kind of fade in from space, where you normally see in the beginning of the movies after the letters kind of formed into the rocks and her landing there, I think that very well might be the first shot.
Could be. If you recall, I mean, I try to recall all movies that we've already had. Every single one of them opens after the crawl of the text, opens in space and either fades down to a planet or up to a space cruiser.
There's always a pan in space. It's
Correct.
It's always space, and then the camera shifts over, and most of the time down, and it's either a planet or a ship. Sometimes both.
Right. The last one in Episode 7, we panned to a planet with a spaceship crossing against it. So we could do the ship. It could go to a planet. I think that's definitely going to be the opening shot. But the question is, do they go down to the planet that Luke and Ray are, or
don't think they were
does it
named
go somewhere else? Do we catch up with Luke and Ray 15 minutes into it, or is it right away?
Well, and that brings up something we haven't talked about yet, which is what exactly are Finn and Poe going to be doing the whole movie?
That
What's the rebel storyline in all this?
Yeah, what's the Resistance story too? Because they're still fighting the First Order. That's the Empire plot of the whole thing.
Right, and we know that Finn at some point is going to go up against Phasma, which looks like it's going to be an awesome fight. I'm actually looking forward to that.
Me too. I'm looking forward to more Phasma in this movie. She was so hyped up in all the merchandise and whatnot for Episode 7 for what essentially amounted to a rehashed joke, an inside joke within Star Wars. Let's throw in the trash compactor.
Right. I mean, I've heard some talk that they're going to try to make her like the Boba Fett of this one, and I actually would be really excited to have her be more active and more of a threat and do more with her character in general.
From what I've read in production notes, little leaks and spoilers here and there, her role is bigger. She'll have probably more of a commanding role of the troops that we're going to see within the, with the battle on the Salt Planet with the walkers, and probably mixed in with the space/air battle as we go along in that battle as well. I think that battle that we see is going to be about your 2/3 of the way. That battle's going to happen probably 2/3 of the way through the movie, if I was to guess.
How soon do you guys think we're going to get Finn back?
I imagine pretty quick. I feel like they're going to have him pop up mostly healed pretty soon. Pretty early in the movie.
They'll probably come out of the Baptist tank there, and I'm all better. Let them move on.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm more like, what I guess I was getting at is I'm really interested in what's driving that storyline, because in most cases, all the rebel versus the Empire, or the Resistance versus the First Order, it's all usually tied very closely to whatever's happening with the Jedi and the Sith. But in this case, it seems like the Jedi and the Sith are preoccupied with training. So what's the threat? What's driving them?
Where's the connection between the two? One thing that, and I don't, like I said, you guys have seen the main trailers that are out there. Did you catch the one of the first images we see of Finn is that he's dressed in dark uniform, actually black. What I read and what that's leaning towards is that, this is putting numbers together, is that he comes out of the back to find out what's going on, and either volunteers or gets ordered to go undercover. With his background being a First Order trooper, he knows the workings of the First Order. He's the perfect spot. Let's send him in. Let's get him ingrained into what the First Order is doing. And that's where I think that is going to lead up to the main battle. That might also be where he goes mano a mano with Phasma, that fight scene.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds possible.
Well, we're only, like a month away from seeing this, so
41 days.
And I knew somebody would be counting.
Hopefully you all have your tickets by now.
Actually, no, surprisingly.
All right. Now, one of my big questions is, because I made this prediction, it wasn't really a prediction. I was just saying, watch, it's going to happen, but I doubt it is. But I was like, watch that Snoke is going to be like 2 feet tall, and he just has like some kind of complex, just projecting himself really big. But I'm pretty sure I saw from the toy line that he was normal size, and I was kind of disappointed.
Do you want him to be like evil Yoda?
Yes, I was kind of hoping that they would flip it and it would be like an evil Yoda.
And actually, that's something that you see briefly in the newest trailer. Snoke's, for lack of a better word, throne room with his red Praetorian guards.
Right.
You see him just in the distance sitting in his chair. And
yeah.
He's your normal, I wouldn't say normal, he's apparently supposed to be like 7 feet tall.
Oh, so
humanoid.
He's really tall. No,
he's a little bit bigger.
I saw him in the distance for like 1 second, and then it cut, but that's what trailers do.
I'm still kind of unclear about whether he's supposed to be like an alien species, or if he's supposed to be like horribly disfigured by the dark side, kind of the way the Emperor became disfigured by the dark side.
He became disfigured in one scene with Samuel L. Jackson.
Mace Windu.
I still think that that's a terrible explanation for why he looks the way he does. I personally always liked the idea that he was just corrupted by the dark side and it just ate away at him.
I agree with you on that one. That was a very fast and quick cop out.
No, it's actually kind of comical now when you go back and look at that scene.
Yeah.
A lot of the prequels are comical if you go back and
Comical in the most unintentional way, because I still find 4, 5, and 6 to be comical. But those are intentional comedies, not even. I don't even know how to describe the prequels.
Believe it or not, don't be surprised if in either episode 8 coming up or episode 9 when we get it, if there's more references to the prequels than you would be expecting.
I'm fine with that.
I definitely see that. I see that being very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, it's been something that's been going around the rumor mills for, I'd say, probably about the last month.
I'm totally fine with that.
There's going to be more direct ties.
As long as Jar Jar doesn't show up.
Okay.
No Jar Jar.
Well, it depends. What are they doing to Jar Jar?
Right.
Unless his head's like on a mantle somewhere. Then.
Oh, there you go.
See, that would be funny.
It's above Phasma's desk in her office. She took down Jar and it's mounted up there.
But I totally expect Disney to do that though, because they're trying.
What, murder Jar Jar?
No. Like I mean, like I expect them to tie in more with the prequels because it doesn't seem like Disney is trying to just be like, okay, 4, 5, and 6, the prequels never happened. Like it seems like they're really trying to, while they're still trying to make Star Wars their own, and they already said they're ignoring the expanded universe. It does seem that they.
Mistake.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a terrible mistake. But it does seem like they're trying to make people, see 1 through 6 all as one cohesive, unified thing.
Yeah, and there were already mentions of the Clone Army and the Sith in episode 7 too.
Correct.
Yeah, and I'm fine with them bringing stuff back, just as long as you take the material and you do something with it.
So you want more people to start using the word wizard?
Well, and how we talked about this, we didn't want it to
They're
be
bringing it back.
We didn't want this to be a rehash of Empire. I really don't want this to be any kind of rehashes of any of the prequels. Take the material, do something with it.
Well, the prequels are kind of rehashes of the first 3 anyway.
True.
So don't rehash the rehash.
Well, they say, the goal was that it was supposed to be like poetry where they were supposed to echo each other.
No,
But the problem is
don't
that
use his talking points.
There's echoing and then there's straight mimic. That there's a line that has to.
Right. Well, 1 or 2 little nods is an echo.
Right.
Like things that kind of like repeat here and there, that's fine. But when your entire basic story structure and all of your beats are essentially the same, just copied poorly, then yeah, that's not echoing. That's just being lazy.
Yeah, you're
All
just basically
right,
copying and
Disney
pasting.
and Lucasfilm. For episode 9, no big space station.
Oh, I would hope not. I would hope they don't have any more space stations that blow up or planets that blow up.
And that brings up an interesting point, going back to what we were talking about with what the Resistance is doing. They are really on their own now. As we saw in episode 7, they blew up Coruscant. They blew up the governing body of the universe. There is no more,
are they gonna address
order.
that?
I hope so. I think actually what I was going back to the beginning of episode 8, I was saying if it doesn't start with Luke and Rey, maybe it starts with Leia, rest of the Resistance, dealing with the fact that they are now completely on their own with no government backing, no real order to the universe, no sense of how is the universe going to function without a governing body. Now, maybe that's the way we go with the heart this
I
up,
mean,
'cause
I'm
that's a
sure
big-
that has to be addressed. That would have to be. They can't just skip over that because that's. I mean,
They can.
I guess they
They
can.
could, but that'd be a horrible way to do it.
Oh, I
Right.
agree. I mean, I think that's fantastic. I agree. I think it would be amazing if they explored that. I have a bad feeling that they're just going to gloss over.
You have a bad
Yeah.
feeling?
I have a bad feeling about this.
There we go.
One other possibility too is I think that as far as threats going, it could be them locating the main resistance base, because that's pretty much what they were trying to wipe out at the end of 7 before they were able to get to Luke and stuff. But
that's also exactly what they're doing in Empire. Just
yeah,
pointing that out.
exactly.
Exactly. As the resistance or the rebels have always been on the run. They've never been able to stay in one place long enough to establish any main focus. And Empire, the New First Order, they know that if they can keep them on the run, and they can just wear them down.
And there's also from the trailer, I kind of gathered together that they might actually find the island that Luke is located on, and they might, because there was a scene with the Rey and Snoke, and it looks like Rey's being interrogated, and that could also be with Luke saying this is going to end the way you think it is. He could very well be talking to Kylo Ren.
Speaking of with, I guess with everything with Carrie Fisher, on how do you think they're going to end up writing her off of this? Because I would assume they're going to have to kill her off. Like, I don't think they could just say she went away and she's not going to be in Episode 9.
I'm really curious about your guys' opinion, and I'm going to go last on this. I want to hear everybody else's before I voice my thought on it.
I'll go ahead and take this one first.
Please.
I mean, obviously, it's very tragic, the passing of Carrie Fisher. And it's a shame that she's not going to be able to be in 9 like they originally intended. But as far as what they're going to do, they've already said they are not going to CGI her. I'm guessing they already have the footage they need.
All of our scenes were shot and finished.
Right. So whatever they needed to do to change it around in editing so that they could write her off the series, I think they already had. So they hinted at it in the trailer. There's the possibility that Kylo Ren just shoots down her ship, and they could do it that way, which I doubt, honestly, because the fact that they showed it in the trailer,
Another misdirection.
Yeah, I just feel like there's no way they would show that big of a plot point in the trailer. So I doubt she's going out like that. But at the same time, knowing that they wrote her without any Force training, that they implied she might be able to get in, 6, I don't know if it's going to be anything Force related or anything like that. I just kind of feel like they're going to do something that's a lot more quiet and respectful, just, for Carrie Fisher's sake, if nothing else. I don't think they're just going to have her, die abruptly or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it seems to me they're going to try to do something a little more grand, but
I would hope.
But I'm not sure.
I would hope it wouldn't be some kind of off-camera soft mention. Oh, by the way, General Leia is dead. And, I'm sure they're going to probably give her some kind of big send-off, but I don't know if they're going to do if it's like you said, like another misdirection in the trailer on what it looks like Kylo might be shooting her ship down. As you said, these trailers like to throw in misdirection.
And it could just be that there's something that she was going to do in the original story that they can then manipulate in editing so that it ends up being like a big self-sacrifice moment. I mean, there's a few different ways they could go about it, I guess.
Ian?
My guess would be either it's going to be some sort of self-sacrifice moment to try to reach out to Kylo Ren one more time, not to give up hope on him. The way the trailer kind of shot, it almost kind of mimicked the Luke talking to Vader after he found out it was his father and trying to get that straight. I would think it's either going to be something like that, or they just have her character quietly pass away, like natural causes, and do a funeral for her.
All right.
I can't imagine there being any more, unless they had already planned to kill off her character, which honestly, from everything I heard before, it didn't really sound like that was their intention.
No, from what I heard before is that she was planning on having a bigger role in 9. That was to be my understanding. But I think they'll probably try to make it seem or sound heroic or like she is reaching out to Kylo one more time, or maybe she sacrifices to maybe even save him at any point. Do you guys think that Kylo's even going to turn good at any point? But that's another question. Anyways, before we get on to any other topic, Chris, finally, your thoughts on Carrie Fisher.
Everything that you guys have brought up is essentially possible. When Carrie passed, the first news that came out was that they were going to deal with her death off screen. Now, that being said, that was right after her death, which would probably lead to episode 9 starting, in my guess, with a big funeral. And that's actually a way that we could pretty start 8 off too, would be a funeral for Han. What I could potentially see happening is the big sacrifice. This battle that we've seen on the trailer going on for so long, and the Resistance is losing, but maybe her ship is so damaged, cannot be, because it's the point of not being able to function. Do we see the self-sacrifice of her ordering her ship to drive into the main battle cruiser of the First Resistance and dealing with it that way? It would be the last heroic act of a great general. The last trailer with Kylo and Leia being cut frame for frame almost, with the possibility of looking like he's going to kill her and her ship. I think that's a possibility that we're going to see that, but it's not going to come to fruition. It's mimicking what Luke says I believe in Jedi, where he says, I can't kill my own father. He knows that after Han's death at the hands of either Kylo or Han himself, can he do that? Is that the final test that would really drive him completely to the dark side if he was to kill his mother? But I don't think that that's the way that's going to go. I think that he's going to have that. He's going to be in the position to do that and pull out of it. He's going to, pull his ship off.
Do we think this is going to be like at the very end, or do we think like kind of at the beginning of the third act?
I'd say in the last it's half hour, 20 minutes. We've got to wrap it up. Yeah, it's going to probably be wrapped up on a down note, but it's got to have a little bit of a positive ending as well. Empire, yes, it ended on a down note for our overall story, but it was still a positive thing. You look at the last scene, it's Luke and Leia together looking towards the bright future of what Jedi could.
Yeah, they had still escaped the clutches of the Empire. They were able to escape out of Cloud City. For the most part, they were intact.
Correct. And the last little tidbit I'm going to throw on this one is, even with the death of Carrie Fisher, Princess/General Leia, what this does bring up is actually Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billy Lord, who, if you were eagle-eyed in episode 7, you saw her as one of the commanders of the Resistance. What I've heard is that this possibility opens up her to take over a higher commanding role. So we'll not see Carrie Fisher, but we'll see the essence of Carrie Fisher in episode 9 through her daughter taking over some.
Was that her daughter in real life, you said?
Yeah, Billy Lord, her daughter. You saw in episode 7, if you in the command bunker, you see her. She's got actually a very similar hairstyle from A New Hope that Carrie Fisher had, the raisin rolls or the cinnamon buns at the side of the head. That's her daughter.
The raisin rolls.
What I've heard, that there's a possibility that they'll continue.
I want to touch on something real quick that you mentioned as far as Kylo Ren goes.
Well, that's where I was going to go next after this. I was like, where do we see him going?
Nice segue.
Okay, I'll wait.
No. Go on.
Go for it.
That's where I was going to go from.
Well,
so.
I just wanted to bring up the Kylo Ren's training in this one, because I do think that that's going to be a big plot point for the movie is Kylo Ren training in the dark side. I kind of feel it would be redundant to rehash the whole he has to do something to prove himself dark side. Like that was so big of a plot point in 7 with him killing his father, that I feel like it would be kind of cheap to just do that again in this one.
Yeah, so, that was very much banishing the light, that conflict. I mean, he even talks about how it was a conflict within him, and Han Solo was saying, well, how can I help you?
Right. I mean, I think the entire point of that was this is him embracing the dark side completely. This is him trying to rid himself of the good inside him, because his goal is essentially to be Darth Vader. And he doesn't want to have the weakness that Vader did, the thing that did him in.
Right. I think his goal is actually beyond Darth Vader. I think that goal is actually to be essentially the Emperor. Because when he says, I will finish what you started, that possibly already at the Vader point, he wants to go beyond. He wants
to be a legendary Sith, one of the best ever.
he wants to be the Palpatine. He wants to be the Snoke. He wants to
The Revan.
he wants to be the top dog. That's why he's got the Knights. That's why he's got those guys that follow him.
I would love to see them play a bigger part in this, by the way. The Knights of Ren. Like, I
Yeah, I
really am
hope-
hoping that they're going to do more with them in this.
I agree. I think that was a plot point that had we had a 4-hour edition of episode 7, I think that could have gone to it. But I think that was another thing that was sorely glazed over.
They are shown in the vision that Rey has when she touches the lightsaber.
Yes,
In 7,
but
yeah.
that's it. But that's
Yeah.
all you get. Who are these people? What are they to him? Are they other fallen Jedi that Luke was training? Are they?
Well, it's
Is
Nope.
Kylo Ren actually not Sith yet?
That's
just
where
the
I was.
same- Just the same way that Rey isn't officially Jedi. He's not Darth. He's you know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't have any of the monikers that the official Sith do.
and
Like he's
actually-
part of the Knights of Ren. He's not
And
like a Darth.
yeah, Snoke even himself mentions that you have mastered the. I remember if it was the Knights of Ren or the Art of Ren,
I think it was.
but
the
he very
Knights.
clearly said he mastered something along those lines, and it seemed very different from like
And
the dark
actually,
side.
the whole Sith concept kind of falls by the wayside in episode 7. That there's no real mention of it at all. And actually, if you go
That's
back
true.
to the original trilogy, the Sith are very. Actually, the word Sith isn't even really used in the original trilogy. You can go back to the prequels. The only mention that we know of it is in the word Darth Vader. The Emperor
Yeah.
is known as the Emperor. He's not known as,
He's not
Darth
known as Darth
Plagueis.
Sidious. Yeah.
Darth
And
Sidious. Yeah.
Maz in episode 7 even lists them as separate evils. She says, I've seen the Sith and I've seen the Empire.
Exactly. So it has the Sith completely gone by the wayside. Has the
And maybe that's what they're
has the-
trying to do, or that Luke is insinuating with about that the Jedi also need to end.
oh, I've got a good one for that when we get to it.
I see. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it could be something where they're still trying to discover it themselves. Because both Sith are dead at the beginning of all this. I mean, when the Emperor and Vader die, the
Yes.
line of training dies with them. So I don't know how Snoke got his knowledge of the dark side, and Kylo Ren is clearly just fumbling around in the dark, pretty much. Yeah,
Is
that was an unintentional pun, by the way.
Well done. Is this another path of the dark side? Is the Sith completely done, or is this the potential for tying in the prequels about bringing the Sith back? Is this a way to tie the prequels into the new movie?
Well, that's
Is the
why I
Sith-
wondered if they were going to do something paralleling what Rey's doing and what Luke are, with like going back to the original, like Luke's at an original Jedi temple. I think it would be amazing if they went and had Kylo Ren go to Korriban and visit the ancient Sith temples. I think that would be incredible to see in an official movie.
That would be cool. That's a good point. But is Kylo's training stunted by, or not stunted, but is it basically 80% of what Luke already taught him of how to be a Jedi or a Force wielder, just to split hairs and everything as a Force wielder? Did Luke train him 80% of the way, and now he's trying to figure out the other 20% as he goes under Snoke? So he's
Well,
already been trained
is
in
it-
the use of the Force.
Yeah, is it learning the traditions of the Sith at this
Or
point?
whatever faction that he's going with the dark side. Yeah,
And how much of that is actual training? Because
exactly.
if we're taking the prequels as lore, which I'd rather not, but apparently they're not going away.
Well, we kind of
um,
have to in this situation.
Yeah. One thing that is sort of shown in episode 3 is that Anakin just basically has to go out and do horrible things to get stronger in the dark side.
Is
you
that
know,
the training?
Yeah,
Or
you
is
don't see Darth Sidious, the Emperor, like telling him like, "Oh, here's how you do, the choking, or here's how you do this." He basically is just like, go out and purge the Jedi Temple and just do all these horrible things so you're strong enough in the dark side so that I can, show you how to like keep someone from dying.
Oh my god.
Right, and that's kind of like what I was saying about
Hang on.
Kylo, is that when Anakin turned, he's already 100% trained at use of the Force minus a few things, and now Palpatine comes in and goes, now that you've got all these abilities, you can do it for the dark side. It's not the abilities change and how to train, it's just use a little bit more anger, use a little bit more hate.
Well, he
And
does
you're-
imply,
Oh.
to be fair, he does imply that there are secret techniques that the Sith know.
Right, but we never see them.
True.
There could also be like another aspect to it, is the more of not necessarily the force power, but the political power, how to rule by fear, how to maintain order,
Exactly.
how
As
to
opposed to
spread.
Yeah, as opposed to leading through passion,
Right. Now
good. Here, hate.
I'm really curious now to see the training montage of somebody trying to teach somebody else how to choke somebody.
No, harder. No, less, less.
Especially if they put it to like, Eye of the Tiger with different
Yeah.
lyrics.
No. Oh god, that's that should
You
be an
have to
idea
hold
for a
your
short-
hand out like this.
Okay,
That's a
here's-
fist you're making. No, you have to extend the first two fingers. This is very important.
Look really
Here's-
pissed off.
Here's a question for you guys based on another thing that we see in the trailer dealing with Kylo. You see him clearly looking at his mask, slash, whatever you want to call it, and essentially, out of anger or smashing it into the wall, and then you never see him in the trailer wearing the mask. Is this Kylo
He's got an anger
being so
problem.
internal? Is he so internally? Yeah, he's this term I hate. I can't believe it. He's the millennial of Star Wars. Very, I hate that, but it works. Is he so internally conflicted? Killed his father under what he thinks is the drive to continue on, but is it tearing him up too much that he doesn't know his direction? And is that where his frustration is? It's like, well, how much is enough?
Well,
I've done everything.
I really don't
asked.
think he has it in him. Like you have been talking if he's being pushed back or pushed beyond Darth Vader. I don't even think he has any of this in him because he couldn't. I don't think he could kill Han. I think Han had to help him practically. He just seems like
yeah,
he
that's-
wants to be this,
Yeah,
but he's not. He's like trying. He wants to be somebody. He's like some guy that wants to be like a huge rock star, but he can't play an instrument. He can't sing.
fair enough.
Could be
I
too
think
that
that's a-
he's just moved beyond it. Maybe he doesn't want to necessarily be in Vader's shadow anymore. Maybe he's kind of a coming of age thing where he's become his own Dark
wanna be
Lord or
my-
whatever.
I wanna
He's
be
got
my-
a nice, cool scar now.
Yeah.
Well, I just rewatched that little clip from the trailer, and it looks like he's doing it in anger.
Yeah. Like he's frustrated.
I mean,
I-
it looks pretty clearly like he's disappointed in himself for something or something like that.
Or disappointed
he's-
in Snoke.
Like he's
or
failed.
pissed.
He's failed himself, or he feels like he's failed himself.
I kind of hope he keeps the mask, to be honest. I like the idea that the mask is representative of him as like whether or not it is Sith or not. I like the idea that the mask is his like truly dark side form.
I think-
Because you don't even have the humanity of a face, to look at. Like I
Right.
personally prefer that. I know that for acting's sake, they, especially the Screen Actors Guild, they really want him to like have his face on screen more often. But
Right.
personally, I'd prefer more of the mask.
I agree. I think the mask is a very good identity for him, but it also harks back to: are we rehashing Vader or a
Yeah.
villain with a mask?
But I think it works, especially because the part of his character is trying to be Vader or to live up to his legacy or to even, like he said, finish what he started. I mean, I like that it's part of it.
I agree with you. It's a visual that we expect to see in Star Wars.
Yeah, you identify bad guy, evil helmet.
With a mask and a cape.
Well, plus, I really like characters that sometimes having a character wear a mask the whole movie actually helps you identify with them more in a weird
Right.
way. I
Exactly.
think they did an amazing job with this in V for Vendetta.
Mm.
I mean, I honestly think that I connected with that character more than if Viggo Mortensen had not Viggo Mortensen. What am I talking about?
Hugo Weaving.
Wrong Lord of the
Sorry.
Rings character.
Sorry, my mind just instantly went to Lord of the
And
Rings.
that's it for space problems. Thank you.
Hugo,
very
no.
much.
Hugo Weaving.
But
If
Hugo
Hugo Weaving had just done the part without the mask, I don't think it would have been as powerful. And
Well, I even
that's,
think that
that's kind of the way I feel about Kylo Ren. Like, I honestly think his character is better with the mask.
and to
I even
bring it
think
back
with
to-
Vader too, like looking back at him with some of the emoting that you saw from him, especially when he's like looking at Luke being electrocuted and back at the Emperor, kind of just being able
With
to see what's going on in his mind, even though you don't see his face.
right, and it's the whole Boba Fett thing too. It's a super character with the. I mean, one of the most iconic figures besides Vader, Star Wars, is Boba Fett, and he wears a
Yeah,
helmet.
which is weird.
tired.
He didn't have a whole lot to do in the original, but
But
somehow
he's
he was.
still.
And he went out like a punk.
I know.
Hey, don't be surprised if he shows up again.
Is he gonna be half
Boo.
digested?
What's that?
I said, is he gonna be half digested from crawling out of there?
That's a
No.
whole. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
In the original expanded universe, he got out of the Sarlacc pit, but because they threw all that out, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
Nice.
Who's next? Who haven't we discussed yet?
Well,
We haven't really talked about the possibility of Rey's parents.
Oh, ultimate question.
all right.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
a big one.
That is the
One which I don't think there's a good answer.
Right. Yeah.
Ian, why don't we start with you since you brought it up?
Yeah, you brought it up. There was just everybody else kind of went silent on that. We're like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I tend to think there's only like three main possibilities, none which I think that are good,
Really work.
Would really work. But since you are kind of going from a limited cast in the first one of possibilities, if you're going to have any potential real connection or like aha moment, that's who they were.
Let's roll them out one at a time and go through them each.
Well, the one I've been hearing a lot is Obi-Wan,
Okay.
which doesn't make sense much age-wise. I'm thinking maybe a grandkid.
And even then, it would kind of be bad because Obi-Wan's like giving Anakin and Padme such a hard time. You know, he would have had to have had a
what
relationship
he got talked
really
about.
quick afterwards.
Maybe
It
he
would've
settled
had to
down at Tatooine.
Yeah, it would have to be basically I drop Luke off with his aunt and uncle, and I'm gonna go hit the cantina.
And got busy.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not really a Jedi anymore at that point. He's just
It's
kind of
okay,
old
but-
hermit.
Well, let's see. The Jedi are done. Rules are out the window. I'm gonna hook up.
But I think
Well,
one of
he's
the
not-
reasons
he's
why.
not going by Obi-Wan.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean,
I-
I mean, dude, he's got, let's see, Force. He can use for pretty much anything. So I'm pretty sure he would not have any issues picking up women. Be like,
want to go.
I am the
That
old
was
man
all.
you're looking for.
I love that that's where his mind went first. Like, Justin's like, you know, like, I would use the Force to pick up women.
Who wouldn't?
I'd be like, look, no hands.
Just
Good
remember
night,
the
everybody.
Force.
All right.
The
And
Force
I
only
do
works
think
on
that
very
one
weak
of
women.
I do think that one of the things that kind of gives this somewhat legitimacy is in the vision. I went back and kind of rewatched that, and there's
much?
kind of things with Yoda and Obi-Wan talking, but Obi-Wan actually says Rey's name.
Right.
Actually, okay, so I want to chime in here because I do have confirmation on this. It is indeed Obi-Wan's voice. He says, Rey, these are your first steps.
Yeah,
Yes.
which also echoes to this is your first steps into the larger world that he said to Luke.
Right. And that voice is actually a combination of Alec Guinness, Ewan
Which I
McGregor.
thought was just awesome. I think that's really
Yeah.
cool they did that.
I think it was an absolutely beautiful thing.
so who else do we have now for the possibility?
The second one, I think there's probably three.
There's
The second
three
one
main
is it's another Han and Leia's kid.
Right.
I mean, there is some
Kylo's
potential.
sister, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, Kylo's
Yes.
sister, kind of doing that whole family thing again.
Everybody in the
think
Star Wars universe
There is
is
some
related.
questions that are brought up. Okay, well, why didn't Han or Leia say anything when they were united? But it
Right.
could be the potential that they're still trying to keep it all a secret
Uh,
because of past things that have happened, they might really know not to let this information get out.
Yeah,
But then again, why wouldn't Kylo
Right.
recognize it unless that's...
I still feel like there would be some kind of connection there with Kylo, like with both of them being force sensitive, that they would have
Yeah.
I think,
Mhm.
felt something.
Well,
off
how
like-
long,
oh,
did,
sis.
how long did Luke and Leia exist in the same field of play without knowing each other as being brother and sister?
Yeah,
Well,
but my,
yeah.
my my problem with this theory
But
is
She was probably more like 4 or 5 when she was dropped off to Jakku. And they do
Exactly.
they do say though that she sent off Kylo Ren to train with Luke.
Probably at
So
a young age.
we don't know
yeah,
what
but-
age
wanted.
that happened.
But my point is if she was dropped off at age 4 or 5, how would they have known Kylo was a threat at that point? Because in the vision, it shows that
Yeah.
Kylo Ren was more or less grown up when he turned evil. So,
Exactly.
and they're not that different in age. There's not that big of an age gap there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like, why would they just abandon her at 4 or 5 to hide her when there is no threat yet?
yeah, that's why I don't see that one.
That's
I mean,
it's a
Yeah.
hard one.
I mean,
to find.
that-
There's a lot of questions. The only line from episode 7, because I've read theories about this before, is when Luke, I'm not Han and Leia are talking, and they were like, "You left. It was a difficult time for everybody." One of the things that's been out there is that choice to give her up and everything was a choice that wasn't necessarily easy for either one of them. Maybe Ben showed or Kylo showed at an early age more force sensitivity than Rey. That's why they sent him off with Luke.
Yeah, I mean,
They were like,
I could still
"We're
I could
gonna
see
hide."
that, but that still seems kind of like convoluted to
It's
like
it's a hard
it's a hard sell. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah,
hard
I think
sell.
I think that's a problem with any of these. Is it's going to be a hard sell no matter what. The one that I tend to lean towards the most at
Bring it.
this point, even though I don't really like it, is Luke. Because they
Had they-
they
had they
basically
kept
say
the-
that she dropped him off, and that she was always waiting for him to come back. But there's the point was made. It's like that they're never coming back.
She keeps on saying they, like she keeps saying parents, like she remembers 2 parents.
Could they
That raises
introduce
the question.
Mara Jade or
Mara
I forget
Jade,
her name?
that's where I
Mara
love
Jade.
Mara Jade.
how-
Watch her parents
But
are
there
just going to
again,
be
with
somebody
throwing
named
the
Nancy and
expanded universe
Alan.
out the window, it really leaves it open for anything.
Yeah, I think them ditching expanded universe really throws a big monkey wrench into a lot of the possibilities. If they did do Mara Jade, imagine she'd be very different from the way she appears in the books and comics.
Agreed. Although her character would just amazing for Star Wars. How about the 4th wild card? Nobody's ever going to see this coming and directly ties back to the prequels. She was conceived by midichlorians and is one with the Force. Horrible.
Please no.
I think I would
She's
get up
already
and walk
married
out.
Sue enough.
I would-
Yeah, I think I would get up and walk out of the theater at that point.
yeah, just
Yeah, I
stand
think
up.
that would be pretty dumb at that point.
Just stand up and say done and then walk out.
I would actually be like, I'm going to follow that up with saying I would be very happy if they never said the word metachlorian ever again.
Hey, Alan, it didn't happen in episode 7. You get something right.
Don't jinx
Well,
it.
they've got 2 more chances.
Yeah,
Oh.
and
Um,
beyond with the
That's
news
true.
that
They,
Star-
they don't need to
they're-
stop at 9.
they're going to keep going. Apparently, recent news says that be ready for possibility of another 3 movies after episode 9.
I really hope that they have a gap in between those, though. I mean,
yes.
I feel like people are already suffering Marvel fatigue bad enough. Like, you're gonna kill Star Wars, especially because doing this whole 1 a year thing
Yep.
with the
Yes,
spin-off
absolutely.
movies.
With the spin-off
I mean,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Am I
not
the
gonna.
only- Am I the only one, speaking of spin-offs really quickly, am I the only one not overly excited about the Han Solo movie?
No, I join you right there. I have
Uh,
a bad feeling about it.
Right.
I
Considering
I talked to this you before, Derek, but I'm really not excited about either Han Solo or Obi-Wan. Like those are established things. I'd rather see something
I
like a
agree.
Boba Fett or one of those characters that have been in the background but never got their big stay.
Yeah,
Like,
Ian and
I'd
I
like to
actually
see
had
that
a,
expanded.
Ian and I actually had a really good conversation about this, and we we talked about that, but also I think that the richer story opportunities here are the stuff that's like further outside of the main stuff. It's like
Right.
Han Solo already has enough attention. Like we already know Han Solo. Like I don't really care what he was like when he was
Although if
20.
they-
You know, like
Yeah, although his backstory is kind of cool if you dive into it, I just think that it's too soon. It would have been Han Solo movie would be good like 5 or 10, not now.
right.
You just
But
just
I
killed him
think
off.
I
Not
think
now.
in most cases, people are more interested in trying to learn more about the world outside of the characters because
Right.
I mean, my problem is I'm worried about the Crystal Skull effect or the prequel
Exactly.
effect, which is just basically if you do a storyline with a character in their early days or well after, and you do it poorly, you actually make that character
You
less
discredit the
enjoyable. Yeah, like in any other iteration. I mean, like I got to admit, as much as I still love Darth Vader, it's hard not to look at him the same way after seeing Anakin.
But that was really what the prequels were all about. Is actually, I mean, it's the prequels.
I don't think they intended for it to be the way I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm,
I mean, I think the point was to try to make Darth Vader more sympathetic, but to me, he just was, a whiner. But
Yeah, the first three were essentially the setup for the last that this person wasn't always bad, and you saw it at the last Jedi. Here's 3 movies to explain.
right, and that's unnecessary. Like I mean, like Rogue One, I felt was very unnecessary. Is it kind of interesting? Sure, but did I
It was a
need
good-
to know that? Not
no, you
really.
didn't, but it
I
also
mean,
wasn't. It was a good standalone story.
it would have been better if the characters had been stronger. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be honest.
I'm-
I
I'm-
think the last 10 minutes of the movie are incredible. I mean, that whole last fight sequence in Vader in the
Was
hallway
sick.
is just
Was-
awesome.
I'm
It was sick.
I'll jump in on that one too because I still think
for
that Rogue One's probably one of the better looking Star Wars films, but I feel like there was some character problems, especially.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was desperate need of more character development. Like I would have been fine if they added 20 more minutes to that movie just to like establish the
You could
characters
have made
better.
that movie into you could have made that movie into 2 movies for more character development. It still would have been fun.
Yeah,
That
and
would-
I was kind of hoping for more of what the director originally wanted, which was more of a Black Hawk Down in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Let's circle back to Rey. I know we talked about her parents, but what about her training? What is she hoping for?
And this is beyond me because I don't know what she's trying to accomplish. I guess she's just looking for meaning. Is my only
Exactly.
guess.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is that her line trailer is something to the effect of "I'm looking for my place."
Yeah, she says,
situation.
quoting, "I need someone to show me my place in all this."
Exactly. She's looking for purpose. She has no purpose. Scavenger on her whole life.
Yeah,
Right. What does the big galactic conflict mean to her?
Exactly.
yeah. This is one.
And
Of
I mean,
those-
is that her direction? And will she get it from Luke, or if we believe the cutting of the trailer, which should, if she gets rejected by Luke, if Kylo propositions her to say, "Hey, I'll show you another way," will she be tempted to take that? Is she looking for purpose at any cost?
Interesting.
well,
Well, one thing I wanted to point out that I don't know if anybody's really focused on is the use of the color red everywhere. I feel like that's a hint because it's not just the fact that the Star Wars and the logo is red. Even in that most recent trailer, a lot of the backgrounds are heavily red, not just in the Sith parts, but also even the red dust on the planet. I mean, there's just red everywhere. And it just, the more I see it, the more I'm just like, marketing isn't stupid. This is very intentional.
Even the title, when it was brought out, when the letters were of The Last Jedi, those being outlined in red, red is definitely, I have a feeling.
Because that's the first time, right? Like they've
Second.
never.
When Return of the Jedi was first brought out, its letters were red.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because it was originally Revenge of the Jedi.
Exactly.
But also, even the poster is predominantly red.
Very heavy.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what that is. I can't really speak to it. I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's a major hint that when I watch the movie, I'm just going to be like, oh, at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure
It's all
it'll have a click moment or your realization moment. All right.
The realization is that the Pog, or how do you say that?
Oh God.
Porg.
Porg? The
Porg.
Pog?
Yes. The Ewoks of the new franchise.
Yeah, like they'll actually be manipulating
Oh, they're the
Snoke
puppet
the whole
They're the
time.
puppet man.
They're the puppet masters.
As long as I don't hear Yub Nub again.
Oh, what's wrong with them?
All
I
right.
miss it.
So, Chris, you wanted to touch up on something with Luke here?
Yeah, just real quickly, I feel like we've gone through everybody, but I feel like actually the biggest character that we're going to maybe even more Kylo with conflict going to be Luke. And we've got him alone on this island. It was one of the original, if not the original Jedi temples with the book. If they stick to original concept, the Journal of the Wills, basically Force legend.
Yeah, I haven't seen Luke this conflicted since
Gosh,
since Empire, and because by the time you got the Jedi, he seemed to have his shit together a little bit, but then now it seems that these trailers.
Well, by
that he's
Jedi, he
back
was
to-
a Jedi, basically.
well,
Yeah.
he was the only Jedi, and that's part of the hardest thing that Luke. Think about this: for thousands of years in Star Wars, Jedi have been training other Jedi. When it comes down to Return of the Jedi, he's it. And then to go and start this new Jedi Order by himself with really very limited formal Jedi training, you're talking a Jedi that
Well, and
really
he,
hasn't.
by
really
what we
hasn't-
saw with the prequels, he wasn't even trained in a traditional Jedi way.
Oh no, absolutely not. He had. I mean, if you talk about his time on Dagobah with Yoda, that's a period at the most of a week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're talking press training, and anybody that has had a job, it's like that you've got to do on the fly job training. You're not going to all of a sudden you have somebody else in your job, you're going to be missing. So a lot of pressures on him to reestablish the Jedi Order. What if having Luke on this borderline gray side will allow Kylo to either go dark and Rey go light, or cross over? Maybe having Luke middle is a good thing to push the two either towards the light or the.
Nah, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. That kind of hurts my brain to think about all that because it's
Well,
because that's like a
One
lot
thing
to
I-
even cover in one in that film based on like everything else we've talked about that's been in the trailer. That seems like a whole lot to cover, but I mean that could be. No, Ian, what were you saying?
one thing I think is might be an interesting concept that they might toy around with too is part of the reason maybe he left after the whole destruction to seek the first Jedi temple is maybe he is he's obviously struggling with some sort of fear and anger of what happened. Is he wondering if he's got to seclude himself to be able to control himself from even falling to the dark side on his
Oh.
own?
That's a valid point.
Well, especially because he seems in the trailer to show a genuine fear for that amount of raw power with the Force.
Mhm.
Like, is it something where maybe after all these years, he's come to truly understand how incredibly powerful the Force is and worries about controlling it?
Yeah, and that would be an excellent reason for him to go back and seek like the ancient Jedi wisdom, is be able to like, okay, where do I go from here?
Yeah, because
How
even
do I ensure this doesn't happen, and how can I control this myself? Because
that's to go back to what I said. Remember, he never really fully in controlling all of his ability. So he's scared of seeing this raw power.
Yeah, that he was never able to grasp or control either.
Yeah,
and if he has all this fear built up and like anger over what happened too, he couldn't very well just stay there and try to lead a resistance or a new Jedi movement when he's got that in himself.
He came very close to falling to the dark side. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
the only thing that stopped him from doing it was when he had that realization when he saw he cut off Vader's hand and then saw his own and realized that he was becoming Vader.
exactly.
Yeah. So he already knows himself the slippery slope that this can lead. So I think that would be a very good reason for his seclusion.
And he's also seen it. Kylo, like he said, he's only seen power of this magnitude once before, and it was within.
Mm.
So maybe seeing Rey's pure
Well,
force ability, as strong as it is he's scared of having another Kylo. It's like, imagine if there was he's got to have that realization. I lose her, there'd be two of them.
well,
They'd be
well,
unstoppable.
how many days we have for this? You said 41.
41.
You got 41 days to mull all this over. But
3 days before my birthday. Thank you, Star Wars. Best birthday presents ever.
oh, nice. Well, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do another with us four again, and we're gonna have to compare notes.
You're talking
Yeah, that'd be
post
Yeah,
post seeing the movie, huh?
Yes, we're talking the next time us four convene. It will be after we've.
Does
seen the
everybody
movie.
have plans to see it opening or within
Close to it for me at least?
I'm trying my hardest. I might wait till after opening weekend just to let some of the crowds die down a little bit.
What I found with the last movie, if you go Sunday in the middle of the day, or like closer to noon on Sunday opening, we get a pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I did
Yeah.
actually with.
We still had a
episode
full
7.
theater of 3,000 people in the theater, but
Well, I don't know about your neck of the woods, but in my neck of the woods, the entire opening weekend is completely sold out in every theater. So
I believe.
I was maybe
really
going to try
gotta
for
give-
that Monday, Tuesday.
That's not a bad idea. I'm off Tuesdays. I'll go.
Well, gentlemen, before I sign off here, I will just say good luck to everybody.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, that's going to conclude it here for episode 8 of Space Problems. I'd like to thank Ian and Chris for joining us. We're going to have to do this again soon. And once again, I'm Ben.
and I'm Derek.
We'll see you guys next time.